All right, I see us in the group now. Pros, happy Thursday. Hope you're all doing well. This is Pro Power Hour, something we do every single Thursday at this time, right around 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern. This is Pro Power Hour. We've been doing this for almost a year. This is kind of, you can think of this as a product training webinar that you can attend every week. If you're a new pro, this is a great opportunity to continue to just get ongoing sort of onboarding support, learn a little bit about each feature and product. And if you're an older pro, it might be a great opportunity for you to learn about some of the newer things that have come out, or get some refreshers. Also a great way for employees to learn. So if you have new office staff or field technicians, you might want to refer them to some of our sessions. And all of our past sessions have all been recorded, so they're all available in our Housecall Pro Help Center. They're available on YouTube, so you can direct your employees there, or you can go back and watch yourself. We do this every week on Zoom, so if you want to join that list, you can comment on the Facebook post. But we also go live here in the group every Thursday as well. So if you're here, if you have any questions along the way, I'm always monitoring those comments, as well as our chat. And yeah, we're like I said, we're almost a year in, so we're starting to repeat some topics. We're gonna be talking about pipeline today. Super grateful as well for Phil being here every week. Phil's a part of our onboarding team. You might recognize him. So Phil, I will turn it over to you. We can get this thing started.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Yep. Hello, everybody. Welcome again. Today we're going to be going over the pipeline feature that seems to come with it just about everybody's account. So here to just kind of stress the important points of keeping the pipeline. Um, there's really not a whole lot that goes with the pipeline, but there is certain things that can certainly benefit your business, especially if you're like me and a very visual person, or on the other side, if you're trying to give yourself more time back in your day. So as usual, I have a little slide deck with some information. I'll explain what the pipeline is and basically how it works. Then I'll pull up my account and we'll talk about, do a little demo and show you just how all the automations work and how to set up a pipeline to be successful. So let's get into it. So first off, for our pipeline here, our agenda just going again over general overview of the pipeline itself, talking a little bit about the buckets, columns, boards. Everybody has a different name for it. And then, as I mentioned, the automations. So moving into just the pipeline overall, the pipeline is just kind of an intake process and workflow management that allows you to input and track your work from estimates all the way to invoice. Even if you're a company that does leads, we can follow that from lead to estimate to jobs. It's, again, as I mentioned, a very visual way of doing this. Um, with the pipeline, I get a lot of questions of the functionality of the pipeline, and we're going to see it as we look at the board, look at the columns or buckets. And really what's great about it is, as it mentions here, what's included is being able to drag and drop. No, that's kind of one of the things that our system really does for everybody to make it easier and very user friendly by just simply clicking and dragging things and putting them in the right place. Now, there is some automation, as we are aware, and as I've mentioned before, but we are going to talk about those as we take a look through the demo. Um, Also, very convenient customer intake flow that enables you to schedule your jobs easy. So if we are looking at the board, you're going to see that there's a list for unscheduled jobs. That way we can go ahead and see which ones are unscheduled, how long they've been sitting in that bucket, so that we can get on the phone and be able to talk to our customers and get them booked. Another thing is that with the pipeline, it does come with the intake form. I think there's only one other feature that comes with the intake form, and that is the VoIP system. And I'm sure you've all heard me talk about this before. I absolutely love the intake form. I think it's one of the strongest features within our system. So, some other key benefits of the pipeline is, again, just streamlining the whole intake process, being able to have the system follow up with customers for you, being able to track your leads, making sure nothing is getting lost. Um, Create that consistent customer experience by having specific request forms, communicate effectively and professionally with each interaction. As we'll see, you're able to build out your text messages for the automations as well as your emails. and easily be able to schedule jobs from the online booking form. Now, for the pipeline boards, there are three of them. One is for leads, one is for estimates, and one is for jobs. We're going to take a look at this together, but really, again, as I mentioned, it is great for people who are very visual and like to see all of their work in one location. I've done a lot of onboarding trainings where I see that a lot of the office staff will have like a whiteboard behind them, and they'll have all their jobs and basically almost their whole schedule there on the whiteboard behind them. The pipeline is just, I always say this is exactly like that whiteboard behind you, but makes it available for you to be able to see this if you are somebody that is constantly on the go or have technicians that need to be able to see this information. Now, with the automation overview, what that's going to do is, as we see, is really for estimates. So when we send off an estimate and we start having a customer that is not responding to us or not getting back to us, essentially we can have Housecall reach out to them 3 times before we should probably get on the phone with them. Similarly, with the jobs, you can do the same thing, but it's more towards any unscheduled jobs. That way, we got our estimate approved. It's sitting there. We're waiting to do the job, and we want to get this customer to get on our schedule. So again, we can have Housecall reach out to them 3 times before we should probably get on the phone and give them a call. Um, Got on this slide, it basically kind of reiterates exactly what I just said. I know that these slides will be, the slide deck will be available for you. So if you do want any further information, certainly feel free to take a look at the slide deck and be able to see a little bit more in depth of the things that I mentioned, as well as also being able to get any information that I may have missed in my explanation. But I feel like I kind of covered just about everything that's on this slide as well. But let's go ahead and demo because it's going to make more sense as we take a look at it. So here I've gone ahead and pulled up my pipeline. And again, as I mentioned, I'm a very visual person. So I really love taking a look at my pipeline and seeing where everything is and the status of where every job, every estimate, and every lead is. Now, um, I don't really have too many leads in my system. I know every business is a little different. I usually talk about leads when it comes to businesses that have a sales department or has sales reps that are constantly reaching out to their customers, giving them kind of a quote before the estimate, being able to kind of lock in that deal for the specific project. So if you're somebody or if you're a company that has something like this, leads is a little bit better for you within our system because that way we can assign it to a specific salesperson and they'll be able to follow up with your customer and be able to go ahead and start getting them booked for an estimate or either getting them booked for a job. Now, in estimates, very similarly, we have pretty much the same kind of buckets here. I call them buckets. And there is the unscheduled, scheduled, in progress, completed, um, estimate sent, approved, and rejected. These ones are already in place for you. And one of the questions we had coming into our meeting today is, are we able to remove them or move them around? The answer is going to be no. They're kind of in place for a specific reason so that the pipeline can function normally as it does its automations. But you do have the ability to manually move. I call them tickets. You can call them whatever you want, but you can move them around. And we'll start talking about a couple of scenarios here. Now, one of the benefits of the pipeline that I always tell people is before the pipeline, there wasn't really a good place in our system to find unscheduled estimates. So if you are ever looking for an unscheduled estimate, the pipeline, in my opinion, is the best place to go. If you want to go into the customer tab and go under estimates, you prefer that list format, you certainly can do that. But just for me, again, I like it more from the pipeline. Now, as I mentioned, we'll just start with estimates. When estimates are unscheduled and we finally put them on the schedule, that's going to move the ticket automatically into this bucket. And once our technician says that they are on their way to the job site and going to start the job, that is going to move the ticket to in progress. Then once they have completed it, it's going to move it into the completed bucket. And we'll keep moving on. So once we send it out, it'll go into the sent bucket. Once it's approved or rejected, it will automatically move into those. Now, you do have the ability, as I mentioned, to manually move these around. You can certainly do that if you want, but I would recommend when it comes to the columns that are in place, is to just go ahead and kind of leave those alone. They're going to move on their own. All right, so a couple of other things. We'll take a look at jobs before I start explaining all the different buckets. Same idea is with jobs, we're going to have unscheduled, scheduled, in progress, completed. We're going to have invoice sent and invoice paid. Everything else you can turn on or you can create yourself. Similar functionality as we build out our own columns, our own buckets, we can have them in different places on the pipeline, and again move them around as we see fit or where they need to be. Now, kind of explaining a couple of things that are in my pipeline that may not be in some of yours if you are new to the pipeline is there's one like here called in review. I was working with a company as we were doing onboarding, and they were saying that they don't want their technicians sending out estimates and invoices. They would prefer is once it is completed that they have their office staff review the invoices or review the estimates before they send them out. So that is why they created this in review bucket. So once an estimate has been completed, they can go ahead and manually move it to in review so that they can go ahead, review all of the information on the estimate or the invoice, and then the office staff can send it out, which will go ahead and scoot it over to the sent bucket column, whatever you want to call it. There is also this created on the job. So this is fairly new. All the people that are aware of this new feature of where we're able to create estimates on the job, similar to changing work orders or just simply trying to get more business as we see different things that we can do while we're at the job site. So if they are created on the job, that will go ahead and put them in the bucket. And once they are approved or declined, that will put them in the appropriate bucket over here. Now for jobs, I went ahead in here and I was working with a company that does these things called job checks. So even before they schedule it, they get in touch with the customer to go ahead, and they were explaining it as kind of like a job check of getting as much information as they can. Maybe these people weren't using the intake form, but get as much information as they can from the customer, and then try to start to figure out when it's ready to be scheduled and schedule it when they're ready to do it, essentially. So a couple of other ones I put in here is like need to invoice, very similar to the reviewing of the estimates before they sent them out to the customers. Once the job was finished, they had the office staff review the estimate, or I'm sorry, the invoices before they are sent out to the customers. Another crucial ones that I've been putting here, waiting on parts. So I know a lot of people have asked me over time, like, well, what happens when I'm waiting on materials or something comes up, the customer went out of town and we can't get into their location. So that's why I have waiting on parts as well as callback or on hold. You can go ahead and call it essentially whatever you want, but these are just kind of the examples that I have. So if I have a job that is in progress, and we know that we are waiting on parts, I'll just go ahead and move this over here. That way I have a full list of seeing all of my jobs that are waiting on parts. Now, also in the pipeline, I'll see if I can zoom in on this enough, but each ticket has a status update underneath it. So anytime we move it or manipulate the job or estimate in any way, it's going to tell us the last time we touched this account or touched this job. And that way, so once I move this one over to waiting on parts, I see it was just a few seconds ago. I think we're okay. We're just waiting on our parts. But maybe for this job down here, it was last updated 20 days ago, and it's still sitting in this waiting on parts. So with that, maybe I need to talk to my technician and figure out what's the holdup. Maybe I have to talk to my vendor, find out if my parts have come in or not, things like that. For the people that don't like to move the tickets manually like this, you'll also notice while I'm zoomed in here is the drop-down menu. You can use the drop-down menu to move your tickets to the appropriate buckets if you'd like to do it this way as well. Now, another common question that I get from a lot of pros that use the pipeline is, Once an invoice is paid or once an estimate is approved or declined, as we can see on my board, I have a couple here within my estimate. I have in my estimates a couple of approved and rejected. Now, over time, and we're going to see this in the automations where you can set this up, um, the way to clean up your board is over a period of time, the automations will go ahead and archive specific uh, estimates as well as invoices once they've been completed. If for any reason you need to call back on any of those estimates or invoices, there is a section right here for archived items. So when I go into here, we can see all of those old estimates, any leads, um, any invoices, and people ask why we have this. It's really so that, we don't clutter up your board. We don't want you to see 1,000 tickets at the end of the year sitting in your completed bucket. We want to give you some time to be able to actually review anything, make any changes, and at some point in time, based on when you want it to happen, you can have it be archived automatically. Otherwise, there is the ability to archive it yourself. Um, so let's go ahead and since we're still talking about the boards, we'll talk about customizing the boards really quickly. Before we do that, I just want to point out is up here at the top, if you don't like the bucket presentation that we have here, I've talked to a lot of people that don't. There is a table format, and what it does is it puts everything in a list and basically still gives you the same information. If you prefer this, great for you. Don't let me change your mind on what you want to do. But again, just for me, I like to visually see everything in these buckets. Now for the search bar over here, one of the common things I hear is like, why can't we alphabetize these jobs? Why can't we alphabetize these estimates? I want to look at it in that specific order. That feedback has come through and we have passed it to the product managers. I have not personally heard of any improvements to that, but what we do have at this current time is there is a way to search by the job number if you want to do that. We can search by the customer name or address or the employee name. Now, let's go into customizing the boards. All right. So for customizing the boards, again, I mentioned that a couple of these are kind of standard with the system, so you can't change them. So examples like that, as I mentioned, completed. You'll notice that it's locked. We do have a couple of ones that are pre-built and already waiting in there for you if you want to go ahead and use them, like this wait list. Not necessarily sure what you would want to use this for, but maybe it's useful to you. But there is also the ability to add a column. So if you want to create your own customized column, you can certainly do so. And not only by creating your own column, you have the ability of setting up where that's going to be. So if you want it to be to the left of a specific column or to the right of a specific column, you just go ahead and pick which option you want, and you decide where in the board you want it to fall. So some other examples of some customized boards. So right now we're looking at estimates. So we see like in review, in progress, drafts, ready to send, verbal acceptance. So if any of you do any of those, you can go ahead and turn that one on. Or again, as I mentioned, go ahead and create your own. Now for jobs, same thing. A lot of these are already put in there, but if you take deposits, you can go ahead and turn those specific ones on. If you are doing loans, again, waiting on materials, need to order materials, and really just kind of setting it up to the way that you need. But again, there are some columns in here that you can just simply turn on that we've created for you. And just taking a look at the leads. So this is really good for your salespeople because what I have with my leads is I turned on first contact, second contact, and third contact. Once we transition over to automations, you're going to see is that as the automations reach out to the customer, they will fall into first contact, second contact, and third contact. So that way, once we start getting tickets in the third contact column, or when we're looking at estimates and jobs, we'll see the label that says second contact, third contact. Once we hit about the third contact and we see at the bottom the last time the ticket was updated, we can go ahead and give the customer a call because essentially Housecall has reached out to them already 3 times. Now, I'll go ahead and speak on the automations. So for that, when you're looking at the pipeline, it's under the settings of the pipeline. So if we go into automations, starting with leads, so engaging with leads. Typically, your salespeople will be reaching out, but to make their life just a little bit easier, we have here that when a lead status is in first contact for 1 day, send a SMS message to the customer and then move it into the second contact bucket. Now, I have all of my automations turned off. If I actually strongly recommend, if you are new to the program and you have the pipeline, is to go directly into the pipeline and make sure all your automations are turned off. One of the biggest support calls, most common support calls that I get is people are frustrated or upset or not liking the fact that they're getting started in the system and their customers already getting a bunch of text messages. So my recommendation is, if you are new to the system, is to come into your pipeline automations and turn them off. And as you start to set these up, then go ahead and turn them on. Now for those automations, you can click on the pencil to go ahead and make any changes. So if you want, to wait a couple of more days instead of a single day right after talking to them, you can say, wait 5 days before sending out the text message. And also in here, you can go ahead and set it up whether you want to send a text message, an email, or both. Now, you also do have the ability to customize those text messages. I don't have the text messaging feature on my account, but up here, very similarly to the email down below here, we do have something that is already pre-written for you, but you are more than welcome to come on in here and customize it to say whatever you want. A couple of other things in here is we do have adding conditions. So if you only want these text messages or these emails to um, target specific customers within your system, you can go ahead and, for example, we see here, and its lead tags are, or its lead tags aren't, and we can go ahead and pick what specific tag we want to use. So very similar to the Marketing Center. So when we talked about that, we saw that there's a lot of conditions that are used to target your specific customers. Same idea here with the automations for the pipeline, if you want to go ahead and target specific customers with your automated text messages and emails. Also at the bottom here, it says, and update status to second contact. You can go ahead and move it, send it to a specific column or specific bucket if you want to. Generally, most people I see kind of leave the first contact, second contact, third contact, just because it makes the most sense. But if you have a different workflow, feel free to create your column, and then you can forward these tickets over to that column once they've completed the automation. And last thing before I get out of here, just wanted to mention that is down here, like a couple of other things in the system. I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with the checkbox for customers that don't want to receive the text messages like on my way, job scheduled, job completed. We could override that for these specific messages. It's not marketing text messages, so they don't really have the option to opt out of them. So that's why we have this here, and we can override those to say, no, these are important. They need to get to the customer. So just again, kind of talking about the leads, pretty much for the engagement here is really, again, 3 times just reaching out to the customer. If we haven't converted this lead within the time frame that we set, it's going to go ahead and send another text message or an email, or both if you want. And as I mentioned, it will do this 3 times, sit in the third column while we decide, do we want to call the customer? Or try to figure out how we're going to get this scheduled or moving it on through our workflow. Some other automations like marking the lead as lost. So if a lead is lost, we can go ahead and let the system know, and it will stay in the lead lost column. It will stay there for the period of time. Mine says 4 weeks and 2 days, but you can change it to whatever you want. And once it hits that time frame, it's going to go ahead and archive it for you, like I mentioned before. Same thing underneath here, archiving the items. So once a lead status has been won for a week, it's going to go ahead and archive it to go ahead and clean up our board. When the status has been lost for a week, it's going to go ahead and archive it, again, cleaning up our board. Estimates. Now, for estimates, the automation for the follow-ups, as I mentioned before, it's really just trying to get the estimate scheduled with the customer, or I'm sorry, um, trying to get their approval. So when we send off the estimate, and in my case, it is 1 day goes by, it is going to resend that estimate and send them a text message and an email. Hey, I sent you this estimate. Any movement on this project? We'd love to get started, and I have it go to my first follow-up bucket. Now, another question I get is that you can customize each one of those callouts. So if you want to say, in the first one, hey, we just talked to you, we'd like to get this estimate approved. And the second one, we haven't heard from you in a while, we're just reaching out again, kind of giving that nice touch to your emails and your text messages so that you're not sending them the same one every time. So yeah, first follow-up, second follow-up, third follow-up. After that third time, get on the phone, call the customer. Similar to the leads, once an estimate is marked as declined, I have it, if it's been declined, or I'm sorry, if an estimate is sitting in the third follow-up bucket for 3 days, um, basically the same thing as putting an expiration date on your estimates. It's just going to go ahead and put it in the lost estimate bucket. And then that's when the archived items will go ahead and start kicking in to clean up my pipeline so I'm not cluttered with a bunch of old tickets. Now with the jobs, this is the one for unscheduled because now we've got the approval from on the estimate, or maybe your company or your business is that you do reoccurring jobs, things like that, and maybe somebody needed to reschedule, so we pulled them off of the calendar. Same idea, text message and email will go out saying, "Hey, we want to get to work. When's a great day for you?" Have that text message and email be sent out, and it will go ahead and stick it into the first follow-up bucket. Or I'm sorry, with jobs, it's going to be just a tag that says first follow-up. I'm going to show what that looks like. Again, after 3 times, really with jobs, there is no expiration date on it. So once the job has either been completed or has been completely paid off, I'm sorry, when it's not completed, when it is completely paid off, that is going to go ahead and sit in our pipeline for the specific amount of days that you want to set. And then it will go ahead and archive it once it hits either $0 or, for example, I have sitting in there for 1 week. Um, And really with that, that's really all the functionality, but just because I just mentioned it, I do want to show how it looks for the jobs when it comes to reaching out to them. So here I have unscheduled. Now, I don't necessarily have a first follow-up, second follow-up, third follow-up bucket. You can certainly create it for jobs if you want. But as we can see here, this job has been on its third attempt. The automation has already reached out to it 3 times. And down below, I can see it's been 4 months since this ticket was touched. So I'm going to get on the phone, talk to the customer, try and get them booked. But yeah, I would say honestly, really with that, that is kind of all the ins and outs of the pipeline. I know we have a couple of questions, excuse me, already prepared. Let's see if any have started to come through the chat here. Here's one. It's not really a question, but something from Lauren. Having color options would be so helpful. It's really good feedback.
Yeah,
Uh,
agreed. Phil, before you jump into those pre-questions, we did get one on Facebook from Jerry Klein. It's a great question. Can you schedule a job and then move it to waiting on parts? And then if so, does it unschedule the job?
that is a good question. I'm going to say, well, first off, you schedule a job. Yes, you can move it to waiting on parts. Does it unschedule the job? I'd say let's go ahead and test it. I am pretty sure that it stays scheduled,
Yeah.
um, but let's just test it so we can all see together. So we have an unscheduled job here. And we'll go ahead and add an appointment. Okay, so I have it scheduled for today. Let's take a look at it on the pipeline. Scheduled, so this is the one from just a few seconds ago. And let's go ahead and scoot it over to waiting on parts. Yep, and just as I thought, it's still scheduled. It's just in that bucket. You always do have the ability to, if you don't want it to have it scheduled because you are waiting on parts, you can always, if you have appointments, you can always delete the appointment so that, tell the customer there's no need for us to come out there. We're still waiting on some gear. If you don't have appointments turned on, I know that at the very top of the schedule, there should be an undo button, so you can go ahead and undo it. All right. Any others off the bat before I go into the prepared questions?
That's all I'm seeing, but for anybody watching, while we go through those, if you have any questions, want any more information, drop that in the comments or the chat. Phil, yeah, let's tackle those.
Okay. So first question from Vivian. I want to be able to add automations to the pipeline. There are 3 automations that you can edit. Is there any way to add more? Currently, the answer is no. But that is some good feedback. I'm not sure if that has been brought to the product managers, but we will certainly bring that for you. Derek Foster, I just added the pipeline. I know that you can add new columns and set them where you want, but can you reposition the factory columns? I'd like to see them in a different order. The answer is no. They really kind of stay in place, but you can create your own and put them in between them if you want. But really, like, you can't take unscheduled and put it in front of scheduled because that's just not how the pipeline works. Um, Skylar, how can I keep my customers and leads estimates separate? Um, I'm not necessarily sure the ins and outs of your business, but really, I think it just kind of a simple answer to that is that you can jump between estimates and leads. So you would really have to be diligent within your system of setting up anyone that is a lead versus anybody that is an estimate, so that way you have 2 separate pipelines for your leads and your estimates. All right, Jake, is there a way to use the pipeline but not have it auto message customers on our behalf? Common thing I get. I did show is that if, as I mentioned, if you are new to pipeline or new to our program, is to go ahead and go into automations. You can easily turn all of them off. And as you get more familiar with the pipeline and with our system, you can turn them on and make adjustments to your automations. Next question from Thomas. For those of us who use Pipeline, is there a quick access button in our apps down by the schedule customers? So I think you're talking about in the mobile app. So right now, Pipeline is not at the bottom. If you do have the Pipeline, it's actually more towards the top. So it's actually right under where you tap the box and it goes green for when you're clocking in. It's a tab that says Pipeline. And I know for a fact, actually, I'll just kind of pull it up here so everybody can see it. Okay. So when we are looking at our dashboard, as I mentioned, right underneath the time card and tapping to clock in and clock out, there is the pipeline tab. And if we click on that, there's our leads, estimates, and jobs. And if we have access to this in our mobile account, or I'm sorry, mobile app, you can very similarly just kind of go across the pipeline just like this. And similar functionality, we can click on the drop-down menu to make any changes there. Or if you really want to, you can tap and hold and move a specific ticket over just like you would on the web version. Anyone know how to move an estimate into another stage using pipeline without forcing a notification or sending of something? I just want to track the stage, but not have the customer forced to hear about it. Um, so Calvin, I'm not aware of any text messages that go out when you're just simply moving tickets around in the pipeline. Um, Again, I would recommend to make sure you have your automations turned off because maybe those are the ones that are going out. Maybe you're having a ticket sitting in unscheduled or I'm sorry, estimate sent, that kind of thing. Basically, all the automations I've already talked about before, those would really, in my understanding, are the only text messages that would be sent to your customer. So again, if you don't want them to get those, go to automations and turn them off. But simply moving items around in the pipeline should not be sending out text messages to anybody. All right, next question from Chris. What causes some of my jobs to automatically have the tagged added pipeline automation? I've been getting this question a lot lately. I'm going to be honest, I don't know why it is this way, but from what I've gathered in my research is that we are adding this to all estimates, jobs, and leads that are triggered by the pipeline automation. So once a estimate has been approved and has been sitting in the approved bucket, once it is converted into a job through pipeline automation, it's automatically going to apply that tag. Um, I don't know if there's going to be any improvements on for that being specific items, if we can remove it or not, things like that. But that is really the reason why that's there. Most of the feedback that I've seen is really if you don't like that it's there at this time, just simply ignore it. All right, and the last question we have here from Michael, anyone using the pipeline, is there a way to update the status from the job screen in the app, or do we have to go back to the main screen? Um, as I just kind of showed, is that the pipeline functionality on your mobile app is very similar to the web. You can click and hold and move over if you want to put it in a specific bucket, or you can click on the drop-down menu to send it to those specific buckets. Another thing is that you can click directly on that ticket and it's going to automatically open up the job estimate or lead. So similar functionality. And with that, that is all of the questions that we got before the session here. Any new ones come in?
No, I don't see any new ones. Just want to share, Jerry said, awesome. Always a pleasure listening and learning from you. So thank you, Phil. Um, yeah. Oh, parent billing.
Luis, you have our attention.
Yeah,
Let's
we've got
go.
a second. Let's throw it out there. While Luis gets that question over to us, want to encourage you, if you haven't been to one of our office hours before, I encourage you to join us if you can. It's every Friday at 11 Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern. Another great place where you can ask questions and uh, you don't just get to hear from, Housecall Pro staff. You can ask other pros questions. It's a great networking opportunity, and give us your feedback as well. So if anybody needs the link to that, I'll get that over to you. Just let me know.
Cool. I know we're still waiting on it. I know that we're still trying to figure out some of the next sessions, but I guess while we're waiting, maybe it'd be a good time to kind of talk about a couple of things that have come out and are on their way to being available. So a couple of highlights that I like to point out, especially to people that are new to onboarding, is if you've been with us for a while, and if you've been using the card readers, just want to let you know is that pretty recently, actually, I think it's been out for a couple of months now. Now we have tap to pay. So if you are a company that loses those readers or don't are worried about them breaking, not being charged, things like that, we do have tap to pay. If you go to the App Store in your account, there is an option to turn on tap to pay. I will mention that it is $5 a person for the month. So once you get it, it's basically like a subscription, but no more card reader that you need in your hand. You can open up your app, customer can go ahead, tap to pay, or use Apple Pay, Google Pay off their phone. Gonna take a break here now that Luis gave us a question here. Every campus has a different chief engineer, but when invite them to the customer portal, they get to see all other campuses billing, one admin, 12 campuses. So yeah, I'm trying to put that would make sense because they're the every campus. So the chief engineer is the parent. So all the other campuses would be the children, so they get to see all of them. Yep. I mean, that's kind of the functionality, but I'm not really seeing the question here.
Yeah, Luis. If you didn't, if I assume if your question is you don't want them to see, I believe you'd have to separate these into all their own customer profiles with no attachment.
That would be correct. Um, yeah,
I know
and
that's
sorry, go
I
ahead.
was gonna say I know that's kind of cumbersome, but you can, continue to add some of the same if you need some of the same email contacts or phone numbers, you can still, make those the same for all those different profiles. There won't be any kind of matching issues there.
Yeah. Um, and I'm sure a couple people got excited to hear about some new things. So I'm just going to mention maybe two more because
Yeah. Yeah.
that's not really what we had today, and we're going to talk about these things eventually as they start to roll out. Another big thing that a lot of people have been waiting for is now we have the mobile app in Spanish. So if you do have any Spanish speakers or prefer to go through the app in Spanish, all they need to do is if their phone is set to be Spanish in general, the app itself will also function into relaying just about everything in Spanish. I know there's a couple of things that aren't, and that's just due to the functionality of the app, but for the most part, it is in Spanish. Um, Trying to think of one other one that would be worth sharing. Oh, yes. Um, Another common one that I've gotten over the years is talking about inventory. Um, I believe I did a session when we were talking about reporting, and I talked a little bit of how to build somewhat of an inventory within our system. We more focus on material usage instead of inventory, but we recently partnered with Ply, which does vendor management and inventory management as well. So that is also in the App Store in your apps. So I would strongly recommend if you want more clarity with inventory, go ahead and check that out. I do know that you do need to enroll with them. They have their own subscription, but with our partnership with them, if you sign up with them, they give you a personal onboarder to actually show you how Ply interacts with Housecall. So I would say those are the big three things that have come out lately. Go ahead and check those out. And as we start to get more familiar with them, we may do a session on those as we try and find more stuff to teach you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we'll have some new topics to go over. Speaking of that, we got 3 more Thursdays before the virtual spring summit. It's going to be at the end of the month. We probably won't have a power hour that specific day because the summit's going to be going on, but we got 3 leading up to that. Y'all totally open to your suggestions. So I know we've got a couple new people. Mauricio, if you're still here, I know you're relatively new. You just started joining these. If there is a topic or feature or product throw it in the chat. Let us know. We can repeat it, or maybe we haven't done it yet. We can do a new one. Really open to your feedback. One other update too. I know this was just shared with our Super Pros and the Super Pro group. I was getting some messages during this. Very new. Some of you may have this, some of you may not. There's this new job summary. So your technicians on iOS, it's not on Android yet. It's coming to Android soon. Can kind of leave this like job summary that'll appear on the invoice. And you can also name your jobs. You can custom name them. I don't have a lot of info that I can like pull up about that, but that's coming soon. And then if you missed it yesterday, this isn't new. It's actually just functionality that some people didn't know about. James Nichols joined me yesterday. It's in our Facebook group. You can watch the video. He talked over billable hours reporting. So a lot of people were asking questions in the community about, how can I get a report on what I set my hours in Pricebook versus what I actually spent on the job, the hours spent on the job. He showed how to get that reporting. We answered a bunch of questions. So uh, feel free to check that out as well. Cool. Yeah, that's right. You got your first onboarding coming up. That's awesome. Hopefully you'll see you tomorrow again in office hours, Mauricio. It was good to have you. Perfect. All right. Well, we'll figure out what the next topic is. We'll catch you all next week, and I'll see you tomorrow at office hours.
Good.
Cool. All right. Uh, yep. Okay. Yep. I'm gonna capture this, y'all. Yeah, let me talk with Lauren and with Phil, and we'll get this going. We'll add this to our roadmap for Power Hour. All right. Thanks, guys. We'll see you next week.